In the dim, pre-dawn light of a cell, a man condemned by the law sat with a pen and a single sheet of paper. He was known as an outlaw, a figure of notoriety and fear. But on this morning, just hours before his final walk, he wasn't writing a confession or a list of his worldly regrets. He was writing a love letter. This isn't a story about crimes and punishment, but about a love so profound it transcended prison walls and even the finality of death itself. This is the story of an outlaw's last letter. His name was Jack, and the world knew him for the dust-ups and the daring heists. But to one person, a woman named Clara, he was just Jack, the man who could name the constellations, the man whose hands, though calloused, were gentle when they tended to her small garden. They met under an old oak tree during a town picnic. Long before his path took a darker turn, he was a ranch hand then, with a quick smile and eyes that held the vastness of the prairie sky. Clara was the town baker's daughter, known for her kindness and a laugh that sounded like wind chimes. To everyone else, they were an unlikely pair. To them, it was simple. They fell in love. They dreamed of a small homestead, a quiet life, a world away from the growing chaos of the territories. But fate, or perhaps Jack's own restless spirit, had other plans. A bad poker game, a false accusation, and a desperate escape pulled him into the life of an outlaw. He always promised Clara he would return. His letters, smuggled out by sympathetic souls, were filled with that promise. "One last job," he'd write, "and I'll have enough to buy that land by the creek. We'll build our home, just like we planned." Each letter was a lifeline, a thread connecting their two worlds. Clara would read them by candlelight, her heart aching with a mixture of hope and fear. She never gave up on him. She saved every penny she could, believing in the dream they shared. But that one last job went wrong. A shootout, a capture, and a swift trial sealed his fate. Now, in the cold silence of his cell, the only sound was the scratching of his pen. He wasn't writing about the chase or the capture. He wasn't asking for forgiveness from the world. He was writing to Clara. "My dearest Clara," he began. The paper was rough, the ink smudged, but the words flowed from a place deep within his soul. "The sun will rise soon, and weed it, but not in the way we dreamed. Do not weep for the man the world thinks it knows. That man is a shadow, a ghost story they will tell around campfires. The real me, the man who is yours and yours alone, has never left your side." He didn't write of regrets for his choices, but of the regret of lost time. "I regret the sunrises I won't see reflected in your eyes. I regret the songs I won't hear you hum as you bake. I regret not being there to hold your hand when you're old and your hair is silver. That is my only true crime, my love, stealing those moments from us." He filled the page not with apologies for his life, but with memories of theirs. He reminded her of the day they danced in the rain, soaked and laughing, with no music but the rhythm of their own hearts. He wrote about the wildflower she'd once tucked behind his ear, and how he'd kept it pressed in a book, a fragile piece of a better life. "They can take my life," he wrote, his handwriting growing a little shakier as emotion took hold, "but they cannot take the love we shared. It is not bound by walls or laws. It is wild and free, like the wind on the plains. It is the one treasure they could never find, the one thing I never lost." He didn't ask her to wait for him in some afterlife. He asked her to live for both of us. "Clara, find joy in the sunrise. Plant those roses we talked about. Laugh until your sides ache. And when you look up at the old oak tree where we first met, know that my love is there, a part of its roots, its branches, its leaves, forever watching over you." He folded the letter carefully. His hands, which had once held a six-shooter with steady confidence, now trembling slightly. He gave it to the guard, a young man with kind eyes who had shown him a small measure of decency, with a simple request. "Please, see that she gets this." The sun began to paint the eastern sky with strokes of orange and pink. Jack stood up, his face calm. He had made his peace, not with the world or its judgment, but with his own heart. He had sent his final message, not a confession of his sins, but a testament to his salvation, the love of a good woman. Clara received the letter a week later. She read it under the old oak tree, her tears falling onto the dry earth. But they weren't just tears of sorrow. They were tears of a love that had been acknowledged, a love that was immortal. She didn't see him as the outlaw the newspapers wrote about. She saw the man who loved constellations and wildflowers, the man whose final thoughts were not of his own fate, but of her happiness. And she did live. She planted the roses. She found joy in the sunrise. And every time she looked at the sturdy, enduring oak, she felt him. His love hadn't died. It had simply changed form. It was in the warmth of the sun, the whisper of the wind, the strength of the tree. The outlaw's last letter wasn't an ending. It was a promise that true love, in its purest form, can never truly be imprisoned or executed. It lives on, a legacy more powerful than any legend. Thank you so much for joining me on this story today. It is a powerful reminder that there is often more to a person than the label society gives them. If you were moved by this story, please hit that like button and subscribe for more tales from the heart. I'd love to hear your thoughts in the comments below. Until next time, take care.